We continue in the 19th letter, mystical teachings in this letter. Very short teachings that is sort of like cut off in, I wouldn't say mid-sentence, but mid-paragraph for sure. We explained that the Torah derives from Chachma based on what the Zohar teaches. Chachma is the source of intelligence, but it transcends comprehension, Chachma. It transcends comprehension. And we brought some different ways to show that. Now, continues the Alter Rebbe with this idea. Divine Chachma, again, we translate it as wisdom, not such a good translation, but the working word. But we'll use it. Divine Chachma is vested in the 613 commandments of the Torah. But it's referred to the external aspect of Chachma. Now, previously, the Alter Rebbe taught that Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, his prophetic vision was only able to comprehend the external aspects of the divine level of Chachma, of wisdom. Right? And Chachma is the source of the Torah that transcends reasons. It transcends reason. Just as Chachma itself is, again, even in us, it's the source of intelligence, but it's beyond intelligence. So, likewise, the Torah, coming from Chachma, it too transcends reason. Now the Alter Rebbe is saying that this Chachma that we're talking about, that transcends reason, divine Chachma, God's Chachma, is vested in 613 commandments. And it's referred to as the external aspect of Chachma. Now, it's external. What it means is that Chachma, there's Chachma the way it is, bound up with God, the emanator. And this is the distinction between what means internal and external. Internal means the way the thing is rooted in its source, the way it is to itself, to its source. External means the way it comes down and relates beyond itself. So in human terms, the way we relate to other people, that's external. The way we relate to ourselves or to God, right, to our source, that's internal. Okay. So with that, we understand now that Chachma, divine Chachma, that it comes down and vests itself into the 613 commandments of the Torah. It is the external aspect that is coming down and vesting itself. And when we say the word vesting, just like his clothing vests the person, right? We're vested in our clothing more than one way. So what does that mean? It means we measure ourselves to the clothing, right? The clothes fit the man. That's what it's meant to be. What does that mean? It means it's measured, meaning it's got limitation. And it is the way it fits. So, the sphere of Chachma, it now vests itself, comes down, firstly into the external aspect, into Torah itself. And by the fact that it extends and vests itself, that to animate the 613 commandments, That means it's animate. That means it's coming down in a measured manner. That's the external aspect. Again, in human terms, the way we come in a limited, measured manner in self-expression that people perceive us, as opposed to the way we are to ourselves, with ourselves, or to our source in the divine, which is without measure. Now, when it vests itself, right, it vests itself in a manner that it extends, and it comes down to animate. It animates life, our life. The fact that it animates life is actually an external aspect. Again, by way of reference to ourselves, the way we smile to another and give sort of a animate somebody else through that smile, that's external. That's not you. External doesn't mean a bad thing. It's just understanding that external is the way we are perceived. So that smile we're perceived, and another person who's down and out, and they're uplifted by that, which is wonderful. But what that is the external expression of the individual as opposed to the internal. Now, when we speak about that Chokhmah comes and animates. So again, the Chokhmah itself, for itself, right? And there's nothing for itself because everything is rooted in the divine, right? Even though it's divine Chokhmah, but it is a faculty of the divine. It is bound up with the emanator, with God, as one. When it comes down, though, right? So to vest itself, there's levels. And level means, higher, lower. That means there's greater, lesser. That means there's limited. It's limited. Again, as opposed to Chokhmah itself, bound up with God, well, it's limitless. Okay, but as it comes down, there's gradations. So Chokhmah comes down and gives life, because Chokhmah is the source of life in a limited fashion. And the fact that Chokhmah comes down and it itself is able to descend, there's 5 levels of descent. There's intelligence, emotions, thought, speech, and action in the human condition, right? 5 degrees of separation. Now, in the 5 degrees of separation, let's take a look at the human. In the human condition, right? The way the soul expresses itself in action, right? In other words, action means moving a hand. That's an action, right? Simple action, yeah. It can be more complicated actions, but it's moving a hand. The way the amount of light or power of the soul to vest itself to do that is minimal. Compare that to speech. Is much more an investiture of the soul in speech in order to be that we can have the power to speak. Thought is even greater than that. In other words, greater meaning that there's a more power of the soul expressed is in our emotions. And emotions means not the thought of the emotion, but the feeling itself, the core feeling that is even when we're not aware of necessarily, because awareness comes in thoughts. So the emotions, and then intelligence. Hello? Come on in. So in intelligence, it's the power of the soul is much greater. No comparison, the power of the soul in our intelligence to anywhere else of how it expresses itself. Right? Now, that was a metaphor for us to understand what we're going to continue in tomorrow's class. As I said, it's kind of like in the middle of a paragraph. So when we understand that in our dimension, we're going to understand in the divine, and we'll understand what it means, life, what it means to be given life, and that there's the external aspect, the internal aspect, and how we can relate to all of that. More to come. Do you have any questions? All right. I don't see. So you know what that means? I'm going to do Rambam very shortly. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zich and Kadesh Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege, a pleasure to share with you Tanya. Wishing you a wonderful good Shabbos. We'll have a class on Sunday, and then we will not have Monday and Tuesday because it's Rosh Hashanah. We will continue on Wednesday. We'll have a triple header, and more to come, folks. Thank you for joining. Very special Shabbos. We stand with Tzavim in complete belief and trust that Hashem is going to give us an